Hello everybody. So today's video we're going to be talking about annuities, loans, and bonds. We're going to focus a little bit more on annuities and loans for this one. Bonds are something that are quite nice, but I don't foresee a lot of you dealing with them to start with, so we'll talk about them a bit in class, but I won't worry about them too much for the video. So what are they? Well, loans, it's money or taken and or given to one party and to be fully repaid, usually with interest. So unless you're a big bank borrowing from the government, you have to pay interest on it. So kind of sucks, but it's a good way for people to purchase something big that they would not be able to save the money for themselves easily. Bonds. Well, these are something that you invest into a company. They'll go plan to make like 8% off of it, but they'll pay you 6% of the investment. So they're keeping that 2 extra percent for about 10-year period. And then at the end of the 10-year period, they pay you back the full amount. All right. So it's a way to invest in a company, but still get your own money back. So it's beneficial for both parties. Annuities. These are something that you'll be taking money out of an account while it's still gaining interest. So the basic case for this is a retirement account, which we'll be looking at in here. But other situations, like if you win the Powerball, you can get that as an annuity, in which case you'll end up getting the full amount, but it'll take a long time because they're generating the interest off of it to pay you. And then you have sinking funds. This is the opposite of an annuity, as in you're paying into it as it's gaining interest. So this is also like a retirement account, but before you actually switch over to using it, you pay into it every month, and eventually you'll have a nice lump sum in there. So let's go ahead and take a look at the sinking fund first. So one of the formulas that you'll use for it is this one right here, where you have the interest rate, which, to simplify the formula, the book uses R over M. So M is how often it's compounded. It's not that difficult. N is how many times it gets compounded. So you take the number of times it compounds per year, multiply it by the number of years. So if it's 4 times per year and it's 5 years, N would be 20. Payment is however much your payment is to paying into it. And FV is the future value. The issue with this formula is that it assumes the same exact payment every compounding period. So if you say you're going to put $20 in every month, well, it's assuming you're putting $20 in a month, not $30 one month, $20 the next, $10 the following one, because that will mess up with the interest formulas. Even if it averages out putting the same amount of money in, the time frame that you put them into will mess things up. Because if you put the $30 in first and the $10 in last, that'll actually give you more money. But if you do $10 first and $30 last, you'll end up with less money. So this assumes same amount for each payment. That is very important. Now also, if you want to use algebra and you know what the future value you want to get to, you can do basic arithmetic and find this formula. So you know how much you want to get to, what interest rate, and how often it's compounded, and how long you want to spend getting there, you can find out how much you need to put into it. All right. So those are the basic formulas for sinking fund. We'll get on how to use them a little bit shortly. Annuities. So this one is a little bit tricky. You want to keep in mind that this formula will tell you how much money you have taken out. All right. It's not that great, in my opinion. So this is set up in such a way that N, that's going to turn out to the total number of times it gets compounded up to the point where the present value is how much money you have taken out of it. All right. There are other issues with this formula, but it will work for the basic situation for our cases. But you assume how much you're taking out of the account each time, interest rate and everything else is still the same. And you can still do the reverse of finding how much your payments out would be if you know how long you're going to be trying to get out of it. All right. And you can do vice versa, where if you know how much you want to get out of it every time, you can figure out how much you need to have in it to start with. All right. Again, I'm not a big fan of this formula, but it has some purposes. And like I said, most retirement accounts are sinking funds to start with, and then they switch over to annuities. But keep in mind that the payments into an annuity will be a lot less than the payment out if you're doing it early enough. Like if you start a retirement account 10 years before you plan to retire, and you'll be retired for 30 years, yeah, you can be putting some big payments into that one. All right, so this is also the same type of formula used by banks for collecting on loans. So you have to do payments to the banks. They calculate how much your payment has to be and how many payments it's going to be to make sure they get all their money back with interest. Kind of sucks. Bonds. These use a bit of annuities and compound interest formulas to find its worth. So I've already gone over briefly, but like I said, you will invest in some company, pay them an initial amount, and then they'll give you like monthly or semi-annual payments based off the interest. And they won't give you the full interest. They'll give you like 6% and keep the extra 2% for themselves. So they still benefit from it. But they'll use this money while they have it to do a bunch of things and hopefully increase their stock prices, increasing their general equity and all that. Then after like 10 years, which is how long the bonds would go for, it could be a 5-year, 10-year. Usually you're not going to find them for shorter because a company actually needs to invest the money and use it. If they don't get a chance to do that, then there's no point for them. So the interest payments, you'd use this formula here from the annuity to determine how much that would be worth you putting in. So we'll be going over an example of this in class. It deals with how much money should you invest such that the amount of money you get out is actually worth it to you. So if you only want like a 5% interest return, you might do pretty good, especially if the thing's offering a 6% interest return. And then you use the basic interest formula to talk about how much the full return is worth to you. Because if it's a $10,000 bond, well, putting $10,000 in the beginning, getting $10,000 in the end, well, that's not doing any investment for you. That's just getting your own money back. But you can take a look at this formula and see better how it would be worth it for you. And again, same type of setup. So interest is, or the I is your interest rate divided by how often it's compounded, and N is how many times it gets compounded. Now, here's the important part. If you're going to get a bond and you want a certain investment value, when you add up these two present values, you want them to be equal to or greater than how much the full return amount is. So if it's a $10,000 bond and you get that you're willing to invest $11,000, you're getting a better interest rate than you expected. Now, if you put those both in and you get like $9,000, well, that means you're getting a lower return rate than you want. So it's not worth it to you. Right? But this is based off what return rate you wish for. All right. Let's go ahead and take a look at an example of an annuity. So assume that you wish to have a retirement account, most people do, with a 6% interest rate and capable of paying out $4,000 a month for 30 years. So this is basically assuming like you retire at 60 and you plan to live till 90 and you need $4,000 a month to live. To be honest, you probably don't, considering by that point, hopefully you paid off your house, your car, everything. So you just have miscellaneous bills. You could probably live off of half of that. But let's assume you want to live luxuriously for the last 30 years of your life. Well, we'll use the formula for annuities. Payments, the 4,000. Quickly go ahead and calculate what the other ones will be. Hopefully you found that the I is 6% over 12, which will be 0.005, not 0.5, because we have to change it over into decimals first before you go into other thing. Don't feel bad if you did not do that properly. I messed it up when I was going through this video my first time. And then n is just the two numbers multiplied together. So go ahead and put these in. Hopefully you have something that looks like this. And again, I forgot to change the bottom number. So that should be 0.005 on the bottom as well. All right. Now, if you do base calculations, you should get something like this. So you should have $667,000 approximately in your savings retirement account, which that's quite a bit of money. Which, if we take a quick look, so 667,000 divided by 30 years, 22,000 a year, divided by 12 per month. If you just divided that money without interest, you'd be getting less than half of what you actually are capable of withdrawing because of the 6% interest. So the interest is useful. All right. Now let's look at a sinking fund example, which guess what? We need a savings retirement account that has $667,000. Huh, where'd that number come from? So again, 6% interest rate. And just so you know, these are somewhat on the low side for retirement accounts, so don't be horrified. And assume you're going to be going into it for 30 years. So if you start working at 30, retire at 60, that's about what it'll be. So again, here's our formula that we will use. Should be able to tell what everything is pretty quickly. Future value, what we just found. Interest rate, same as the other one was. Number of times compounded, well, guess what? Also the same as the other one. So you should have this formula. Let's go ahead and calculate it out. Hopefully you did that, and you should get about $664. That's a little bit on the steep side, right? Well, let's go ahead and assume that we can't afford that, so I'm going to hold off and not retire in my retire account for another 10 years. So assume you're only going to be doing it for 20 years. All right. So go ahead and calculate out what happens if you just change it to 20 years instead of 30. Hopefully you did that, and you'll find out that you owe about twice as much, even though you're only taking off a third of the time. All right. It's important to start saving for retirement as early as possible. All right. Hopefully that's giving you some idea of how to use these things. We'll go through a couple more examples in class, and I'll see you there.